If you follow these few tips when planting ginger, you can expect large, healthy rhizomes and a much bigger harvest. It often happens that we plant ginger and it just sits there doing nothing for weeks, or worse, it rots before it ever sprouts. Today, I am going to show you exactly how to plant ginger the right way, so you get strong growth and plenty of ginger to harvest. Plus, stick around to the end where I will show you a simple trick for getting even more ginger from every piece you plant. Let's get into it. Ginger is one of the most rewarding crops you can grow at home, especially in containers. And the good news is that once you understand a few key techniques, it is actually much easier than most people think. So let me walk you through the tips that have made the biggest difference in my own ginger harvests. The first tip is all about selecting and preparing your ginger rhizomes before planting. This step alone can make or break your success. When you are choosing ginger, 2. Plant. Look for pieces that are plump and firm with visible growth buds. Those little pointed nubs are where your new shoots will emerge. Avoid any rhizomes that look shriveled, soft, or have signs of mold. If you are buying ginger from the grocery store, try to find organic because conventional ginger is often treated with a growth inhibitor that can prevent sprouting. Now here is something very important. Before planting, soak your ginger rhizomes in water overnight. This hydrates the rhizome and wakes up those growth buds. A trick I have used for years is to add a small splash of hydrogen peroxide to the soaking water, about 1 tablespoon per cup. This helps kill any fungal spores on the surface and gives your ginger a clean start. After soaking, let the pieces dry for a day or two until the cut ends form a slight callus. This prevents rot once they are in the soil. The second tip is setting up the right container and soil mix. Ginger has shallow, spreading roots, so you want a container that is wide rather than deep. I recommend a pot that is at least 12 to 14 inches wide and 8 to 10 inches deep. Make sure it has drainage holes because ginger cannot tolerate sitting in water. For the soil, ginger loves loose, rich, well-draining mix. What I do is combine regular potting soil with compost and a handful of perlite. The ratio I use is about 2 parts potting soil, 1 part compost, and 1 part perlite. This gives you fertility, moisture retention, and drainage all in one. Before planting, I also mix in a spoonful of bone meal per pot. Bone meal is rich in phosphorus, which promotes strong root development and helps those rhizomes grow large and healthy. You can also add a light dusting of wood ash for potassium, which supports overall plant vigor. The third tip is getting the planting depth and technique right. This is where a lot of people make mistakes. You do not want to bury ginger deep like you would a tomato. Ginger rhizomes should be planted just 1 to 2 inches below the surface with the growth buds pointing upward. If you bury them too deep, they may rot before they can sprout. Place your rhizome pieces about 6 to 8 inches apart if you are planting multiple pieces in one container. Cover them lightly with soil and press down gently. I like to add a thin layer of mulch on top, about ½ inch of straw or shredded leaves. This helps keep moisture consistent and protects those shallow rhizomes as they develop. By the way, if you are finding this helpful, make sure to subscribe so you do not miss future videos. All right, let's keep going. The fourth tip is about watering and humidity, which is absolutely critical for ginger. Ginger is a tropical plant that loves consistent moisture but hates soggy soil. The goal is to keep the soil evenly moist, like a wrung-out sponge. I water my ginger containers about every 2 to 3 days, depending on the weather, always checking the top inch of soil first. If it feels dry, I water. If it still feels damp, I wait another day. One technique I use is bottom watering. I set my ginger pots in a tray of water for about 20 to 30 minutes and let the soil soak it up from below. This encourages roots to grow downward and prevents the surface from staying too wet, which can invite fungal problems. Ginger also loves humidity, so if you are growing indoors or in a dry climate, misting the leaves every few days or placing a tray of water nearby can help. Now let me talk about some common problems you might run into and how to solve them. First, if your ginger is not sprouting after 3 to 4 weeks, the rhizome may have been too old or treated with growth inhibitor. The solution is to start with fresh, organic ginger and make sure you soak it before planting. Warmth also matters. Ginger needs soil temperatures of at least 70 degrees Fahrenheit to sprout. So if your soil is cold, try placing the pot on a heat mat. Second, if you see yellowing leaves, this is often a sign of overwatering or poor drainage. Check that your pot is draining properly and let the soil dry out slightly between waterings. Yellow leaves can also mean the plant is not getting enough nutrients, so a light feeding with compost tea can help. Third, rotting rhizomes are usually caused by planting too deep or keeping the soil too wet. Prevention is key here. Plant shallow, use well-draining soil, and never let your pot sit in standing water. Fourth, if your ginger plants look stunted or weak, they may not be getting enough light. Ginger prefers bright, indirect light or dappled shade. Too much direct sun can scorch the leaves, but too little light will slow growth. Find that sweet spot and your plants will thrive. Now for that bonus tip I promised at the beginning. Once your ginger plant is established and growing strong, you can actually harvest small pieces without digging up the whole plant. Just carefully brush away some soil at the edge of the container. Snap off a small section of rhizome and cover the rest back up. The plant will keep growing and producing more ginger. This way you get fresh ginger throughout the season, instead of waiting for one big harvest at the end. I do this all the time, and it lets me enjoy homegrown ginger in my cooking for months on end. So that is everything you need to know to plant ginger the right way and get a bigger, healthier harvest. If you found this helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you do not miss more videos like this one. And if you have any questions or tips of your own for growing ginger, drop them in the comments below. I always love hearing what works for you. Thanks for watching.